Okay. Alright, well, this is a diagnostic update video. Uh-oh. I think I'm in trouble. I think I... Yes, I did. Oh no, there it is. Here's a session that's in... I'm currently playing this session right now. And here's where I'm at. So you can see I'm at 94.14, all-time high, 1366 spins in this session. This is what I'm looking at. This is our King of the Hill. This is a pain in the butt over here because it's had a PLE and it's so striving for the King of the Hill spot. It's been really bugging me. I don't, 16 hits now separating. Well, no, not quite. That's not quite correct. Let me see. How many hits is it actually separating? It's not that much. It's between the 133 and the 151 divided by 6. So, I mean, this is basically 20, 17. So, really, it's 3 hits separating is what it is. It's 3 hits separating, basically. 3 or 4. And it's just a major pain in the butt because I don't want to play this selection because it has a PLE. It's wildly positive, don't get me wrong, it's wildly positive, so it's not a negative PLE ratio, it's positive. So that's good. I mean, but it's, and if this were to have a PLE, then the difference, yeah, obviously this would still be a superior selection. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's maybe we're splitting hairs really at this point because it's a direct neighbor. 50% of the numbers are shared, so maybe it's not just a big deal. But I am noticing, there's this dichotomy between this awesome PLE. I'm trying to get on to long-term selections that aren't gapping, and I want the one. I want the one that is going to be gapping the least. I want the best. So this is where I'm kind of like about this, which is really good to be splitting hairs over something that's so wildly positive. I mean, this is 133 less spins than for the total number of coups accumulated, which is not shown because it's at a PLE. It resets the coup count once a PLE occurs. So it's not showing the total number of hits accrued, but it's less than 246, probably 240 is probably what the number is, and it's probably had a total of 240 coups. So, or did I say 3 hits separating? Well, regardless, I mean, you get the idea. It's greater than 230, but it's definitely not 246, so somewhere in between. And I don't feel like figuring it out because you're just going to keep talking for hours about stupid little things. But anyway, this is the session I have. This is obviously King of the Hill, and the domination is massive. There's nothing anywhere close. This number right here, however, 7 to 12, the selection, is in a certain way outperforming this selection. If we take a look at 7 to 12, we see that we have, well, okay, it was a 5 STR. I must have done some spinning, but it's actually, no, it's not. It wasn't. I didn't change anything. Look at the totals. It's 4, 3, 3, and 1. So, I mean, that's 11 versus our selection here at 28 to 33, and you add this up, and it's only 8. And this is not, I don't consider this bettable, at least according to the former rules, but this is what this represents for 7 to 12 is a short-term trend. This is a short-term trend that is outpacing our King of the Hill in performance. In both, it's outperforming both in diversification because it has a total of 4 numbers that are outperforming versus our 3. 1, 2, and 3. Wait, oops. Our 1, 2, and 3. Okay. This is okay. It has that, and then it also outperforms on the total number of hits within a row within 27 spins. I mean, it's just absolutely, this street is crushing it. This street is red hot, and obviously this street isn't. So this street is carrying the day, and and that's what's causing the upswing on this selection. If we take a look at the chart, this is our selection 28 to 33. You can see it's just kind of treading water, it's not really doing too much, and but it's obviously far above expectation. This is the green line is the STR rating, which means the total number of active numbers in the selection at any one time. The red line represents, in relation to the green line, the red line represents 3 STRs. So if you see this line right here, or this big long line right here, this means 3 numbers that are active within the double street. If you're at this level up here, it's 4. This I consider normally a bettable situation. Anytime you're 4 and above. This right here represents 5, and so this is 5 active numbers, and anytime there's 5 active numbers, I automatically bet. So I'm automatically betting if all the 4s are bettable, I'm betting this entire sequence, except for right here. I take a break. Right, looks, not sure here. It looks like right after a down hit strikes, I take a break, and then for this little skinchy part right here in this downswing, I'm not betting. And then when it comes up here, and that looks like that is right at about at the end of this downswing, as it comes up, I'm betting, and then I keep betting, and then I keep, most likely out of 4, this is a 4 rating, I keep betting, goes up to 5, this whole streak I'm betting. And then it comes down to a 4, I'm probably betting. It drops down to a 3, I'm not betting. And then we come meandering around. Then when it hits a 4, I probably bet. And then it drops, so I stop betting. And then it hits a 4 again, I'm probably betting about right in here. And then it drops back down, I'm not betting. It goes back up, I'm probably betting again. It goes back up again, and it still has some downward streaks in expectation, but it has good diversification in its in the distribution. There's there's 5 different numbers that are coming in, obviously before 27 spins, so it's hot. This is super, even though it goes down in the expectation ratio, it's going down. These are hits outside of expectation, but the numbers are protecting themselves, and so I'm betting, and I stop betting right, which is a slight skinch over on the there's a lot of spins in here, so this is why it's very difficult to, each one of these red lines, the space between them is 5 spins, so I stop betting right about there, right before this downswing, and then I don't even bet any of this at all. These are repeaters. This upward motion is a repeater of, and you can see it's either, this is level 2, this is, this is 1 number present, 2 numbers present, 3 numbers present. Okay, and then down, 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 and then here I start betting on this uptrend about halfway through it, and then it goes even in the HS ratio, in the expectation figures, it hits a latent expectation, I still bet, and then it drops, I stop betting. Okay, and you can see it, here's 4, and then it's going down on HS ratio, but I'm betting. I bet this whole section, most likely this is a 4 active numbers. And obviously here, when it goes to 5, I am definitely betting this, and it drops off very soon, but I would be betting, and then yep. So then I stop betting. You can see how it goes. When this line rises up, I'm betting. I bet this whole section right in here. This is a very big. This is very big. This is like, it looks like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That looks like about 30 spins right there that I was betting the whole time. And it went up and down in expectation. Ultimately, it pretty much went up. This is very close to the all-time high. in this big swath that's I'm betting, and then when it's now dropped down to a 4 STR, which is bizarre because I only I know it's a 3 STR right now. So apparently it's a spin behind on the charting, which is, I guess, unavoidable at this point. It's very complicated to get it all to gel, but maybe I can fix this one day where it does update, because right now it's showing a 4 and I know that we're at a 3. But anyway, to compare, so you see the performance, the long-term expectation performance of this number. It's wildly, for the past 670 spins. This represents about 690 or 670, something like that, spins. You know, over, I would say over 650 spins here is represented, and you can tell it's like wildly above expectation, just constantly hitting above expectation, you know, overall. And so but not really doing much as far as upward movement. Okay, and then now compare this performance, which is excellent, all very good performance, versus 7 to 12. I should have went the other direction, but anyway, you can see 7 to 12. Okay, underperforming expectation, and then it crosses. Okay, and then it just comes all the way down. Bam! This is your PLE. This is a gap. This is the only gap in its history that is showing, because I have to cut it off at like 670, 90, whatever spins. This is a progression loss event right here. This is, and then look what happens right after. This is the phenomenon that we all have noticed. You know, when you have a gap, all of a sudden you get a boom, and it doesn't always happen, right? And this is zero numbers. I mean, this is right after a PLE, right? But it goes all the way up. You know, this is like amazing. This run right here is like, oh my gosh. I mean, you know, gosh, it's like I mean, that's like 40 spins probably. It just keeps going up and up and up. I mean, this means hitting within expectation, and there's no, I mean, it's like almost every hit is very close to expectation or in expectation and greater than, and it just like whew, comes up. All right, and then it dips, comes back up, dips, and then it's a very big move here, and it's an all-time high. It's at an all-time high. So in the short term, it's doing more upward moving than our selection, this move right here. And you know, and that's where my mind starts to confound on comparing these things. And I don't want to meander too much, but this is what has brought me to anyway, you hope you get an idea or something of what I'm trying to say. Now, while I'm playing the session, I went in and updated the software. So this means that I have now this. I've added what I'm calling the let's see, the STR quality. STR quality. These numbers right here is the quality of the STR rating. An STR rating is how many numbers active with at least one hit do we have in the selection. That's the STR rating. But there's an STR quality rating now, which are these numbers, which is the total if you add all of them together. So in other words, if we take 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2, okay, this is the total. So I mean, obviously the number that should be 7. Uh-oh, I hope it is. Yeah, it's 2 and 2, yeah, and 3. Yeah, okay, it's working. Just implemented it. I know it's working, but anyway, that's a total of 7. Okay, and so this is a deeper analysis of the STR figures, which is important. It's very important to have it. And what I've also implemented is you can see now differences in the colors of the titles. Okay, and you know, like this is white. So white means that you have between 1 and 3 active numbers. Okay, cyan, the blue, the normal color, blue, is 4 active numbers. Dark green is 5 numbers or more. Now I may change that, but that's what's been implemented so far. So what we see is that we have, I mean, this is a fake output. I mean, I just like hit numbers, you know, and this is what came out. So it's not an actual output, but I'm discussing the analysis that goes behind the logic that goes behind in analyzing the output, because now we have more to work with. Okay, because first of all, the HS ratio is the primary thing that we look at. The HS ratio is the long-term trend for the numbers for the selections, the selection Double Street 13 to 18 performance over the entire last 40 spins. Okay, and we see that 16 is the top figure on the entire board. There's nothing that goes as high as 16. So these two selections would be King of the Hill based on that. Okay. Now, obviously, in the reality, we don't bet at this time because there's so much crazy divergence that's in the when the sequence is so short, you can't show an effective long-term trend in such a short sequence, because everything is too close and the sequence has not really declared itself. The RNG bias doesn't have an opportunity to declare itself in such a short sample. You know, you need longer samples to be able to see an actual bias. Okay, but anyway, this is, I mean, it's still, we can talk about how to analyze, and you know, we can think that this was 400 spins, you know, if we wanted. It doesn't matter. So what we have is these two HS ratios are the highest, which means that over the long term, over the entire, in this case 40 spins, these two numbers, these two selections, 13 to 18, 10 to 15, have come in in other words, there's 16 less spins for the total number of coups taken. These 9 coups were taken 16 less spins than they should have according to expectation. So this is where the bias is right now. Okay, so that's the long-term trend. HS ratio is the long-term trend. Okay, and so that's the first indicator as to what we want to select, and so far my rule is always to bet the strongest long-term trend. So obviously we have a choice between these two numbers, and what is interesting, and we can tell without going to the screen, we can see that both of these have 4 active numbers. This has 4 active numbers, this has 4 active numbers. So here's 10 to 15. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and here's 13 to 18. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's why they're both cyan. All right, and so that means that and then we can define the quality of the distribution. Okay, we know there's 4 active numbers, but which one's better? Well, if we are assuming that number of hits over a period is going to be stronger, then we can see that number 13 to 18 is outperforming 10 to 15, because this number represents the total number of hits that have occurred in a row within 27 spins, and that 7 is greater than 6. So then if I have a choice between these two, they're both long-term performers, they outperform the rest of the board. Obviously I'm going to be choosing 13 to 18 because it has 7. So in other words, 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1. This has hit 3 times, this has hit 1 time, this has hit 1 time. The street that is shared between the two of them is 13, 14, and 15. So obviously it's not because of the 3 that I'm doing so. You know, number 14 is not the reason that this selection, that 13 to 18 is outperforming 10 to 15. The reason is obviously going to be the outside street. And that means number 16 is the one that is going to represent that extra hit. And by way of comparison, we'll see it only has a 1 and a 1, and then a 3 which is shared and a 1 that's shared. So you see we have 1 and 1 versus 2 and 1. So number 16 is the one that's carrying the day, which is giving it the increase. Now again, this is a fake output. There's no real dominance that's being shown over a long period, you know, like a larger sequence, but the logic is the same. So this makes this a stronger selection overall because it's come in 2 times in a row within 27 spins. Okay, it last hit 18 spins ago versus 17 and 15 on. So you have this equal distribution. There's 4 active numbers on each selection. This one has just come in twice in a row. So this is actually by definition a hot number, where these numbers are normally appearing numbers. And so I mean, I would obviously take instead of 2 normally appearing numbers, I would obviously take a repeater and a normally appearing number. And that's what makes the difference in the selection, because this number and this number are shared between the 2 of them. You can see they highlight in both. See, they're both highlighted. This whole street, 13, 14, 15 is shared. So that's why it's the outside numbers, this 2 and 1 and this 1 and 1, that are the comparison between the 2 selections. And so this way we were breaking down the HS ratio. We're breaking it down and analyzing it by its quality, and we can see that Double Street 13 to 18 has a higher quality, and we explained why. So where the real question comes in is this. Again, this is a small sample size, but this right here, look at this, 16 to 21. Double Street 16 to 21. Oh, and notice something else that's so cool. Notice when I'm here looking at 13 to 18. Let's just do that for a second. The threats to this selection will be shown in red. In other words, these numbers will turn, the threats will turn red. Okay, so here's a 7, and here's a 7, and here's a 7. Okay, so these are the threats. We have 16 and 21. And we can see it's a 5 STR. It's outperforming on every. It's equaling and outperforming at the same time, except the HS ratio. And then we have these 2 that also have a total of 7. These are. This is a total of 7 hits within 27 spins. That's interesting. This is why I'm making this video, so I could kind of figure this stuff out, because man, it's tough sitting here all by myself just trying to figure this stuff out. I'm serious. But anyway, this is very interesting. This represents 7 hits over the last 27 spins, 7 hits in a row over the last 27 spins, 7 hits in a row over the last 27 spins, 7 hits in a row over the last 27 spins. So these are very consistent, these 4. Okay. The difference between them all is obviously first the HS ratio. This is the strongest long-term performer versus expectation for the entire selection as a whole. Okay. And even though the total number of hits within the last 27 spins are all equal between these, this has not performed versus expectation as well. Neither has this one, neither has this one. You know, we have a 9 and a 9 and a 9. And so that's all very interesting. Oh, and then watch this. When you switch, look, let's say I go to 10 to 15, watch the numbers, like watch the bottom row of numbers. See, look, they change. Notice that? This one then becomes red because it's a threat to it. See, and it'll show it as a threat, and then these 2 become red, and then see, this one becomes green now because it's less, and then these become threats. So you can see there's a greater threat to our selection. There's more consistency on the board versus this selection. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threats, performance wise, consistency wise, whereas here there's only 3 threats. Okay, This is no long. This is not a threat. This is a threat. This is a threat. This is a threat. So you see, this is another reason why this number is stronger, outperforming the rest of the board. And if we compare it, this is very interesting. This is the next point I wanted to get to. It's the fact that this is a 5 STR. Now, if we look at the board, we also see there's only 3 threats. Okay, we have obviously this one and then these two. So let's take a look at 16 and 21, and we see it's a 5 STR. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this means a greater number diversification in its performance. Okay, the total number of hits in the last 27 spins is the same. Okay, because you can see it's a 7. So it has the same consistency as 13 to 18, but it has a greater number diversification. Okay, because it has 5 numbers that are appearing. You know, it's the street that's shared, and then it's also its own street is extremely hot. It's 19, 20, and 21 is carrying the day. Okay, so the question then becomes, in reality, which 2 of these are superior? It's almost like they're equal. I mean, true, we know there's only 1 hit separating them, okay, because this is a fake output, and you know, but it's the logic behind it. Which is actually better? Is it better to have a 5 number diversification where 3 of them are single normally appearing and then 2 of them are repeaters? Granted, they're getting old in the tooth, you know, 18 spins ago, 19 spins ago, but that, you know what, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, it's, you know, and sure, this is not as fresh. I mean, if you look at this appears, is it right? Yeah, well, we have 2 fresh numbers, 4 and a 3. We don't have any, I mean, the closest is 8, so the number 20. But here, I mean, number 13 has has appeared recently. This number has repeated recently, just 4 spins ago. And, you know, okay, so that's about just about equal. So, but I mean, and which one's better? You know, which is best to choose between these 13 to 18? I mean, the opposition is 21 versus 21 versus shucks, 34. I mean, obviously 10 to 15 is inferior on every count, even though it's the same HS ratio. Okay, but between these 2, everything is equal. I mean, you know, the total threat is 21. Okay, the total number of hits within the last 27 spins is the same. The only difference is the HS ratio is different. Now, if we look at it versus this other session, okay, this right here is the situation that we have with 7 to 12, but we can't see it. You see, we can't see it because we don't have the data. I mean, it's so hard to try to demonstrate this. You heard how I was babbling earlier. You know, it's so hard to demonstrate how this is a better number, you know, short term than this number. It's very difficult. But if we have these figures here that we have over here, the color coding, 7 to 12 would have it would be cyan because it has a 4 STR. The total number of threats I can't even, I mean, it's not even possible for me to do. It's so difficult. So that's why this is so important, this row of numbers. You know, and so this is obviously a superior way of examining our choices. And so once I get an opportunity, when I reset the session, all my sessions are going to have this data, and then choices can be made. I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to it, the one thing we want to know, and the only thing we want to know, is our selection that we're choosing the least likely to have a PLE? Or is there a selection that we should be choosing that is lesser likely to have a PLE? And now to complicate matters, there is the reverse engineering curse, where if we start hunting numbers, like if, in other words, if I just stay on 13 to 18 and just stay on it, there's no reverse engineering curse. I'm going to get a normal flow of statistics. I'm not going to try to alter it. Everything's going to be normal. But if I start hunting these greens, if I start hunting them as they pop up without the safety feature of the long-term trend, that's going to mess up my statistics badly, even worse than I would normally get. And so that's not the purpose of these statistics, is to hunt these. Any idiot can hunt short-term trends, okay? And I apologize, I'm not referring to anybody except myself. Okay, I've been an idiot for a very long time. And so any idiot can do this, okay? I'm talking about long-term trends and bias, RNG bias. Okay, so the purpose of these statistics is to warn us when there is it is less likely, or put it this way, more likely that we're going to have a PLE. And this represents a threat. This represents a threat to our selection. These do too. These do too. Okay, and so really it's about examining these figures, how they interrelate with PLEs, and trying to figure out a way to avoid PLEs consistently. That means more than 50%. In other words, the majority of time when a certain statistical picture appears, if the majority of times we have a PLE, or we miss a PLE, then we have an edge. Okay, but if our prediction method is less than 50% effective, or in other words, greater than 50% effective, however small that is, that's our edge. Whatever is 50, it's like in poker. That's what they call it. It's poker. If you can get over 50%, then you have an edge. That's the edge you're looking for. More times than not, that's what you want. 50%, if you can get that. That's the question. How can we analyze these figures to avoid a PLE? And that doesn't mean chase. It doesn't mean chase. It means not bet. Lower our bet. Go to the sun deck. Or if we're at the sun deck, just not betting. Ceasing to bet. And if more times than not, we're able to miss a PLE, that's what we're looking for. I have no idea where the statistical analysis will go from here, but this is additional diagnostics that are now at our fingertips to monitor the performance of our enemies. Okay, we can see the enemies are colored in red, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm glad I've implemented this, and I'm glad I made this video, and I'm gonna watch it and listen to myself babble and see if I can come up with anything. But I'll put it in my more secure memory by so doing, and that's another great reason to make this video. So I hope you all are hope none of you have fallen asleep, and all those who have persevered to the end of this video. I don't know how you did it, but thanks for watching.